So I know we're all here to talk about AI, but I also want to know who's ready for some PowerPoint slides. Excellent. Let's go. Let's jump in. So this is the only AI-assisted slide of the deck. So I just wanted to leave that up there because I'm very proud of it. It's a very good prompt. But let's start with the main message of this moment, but also what I believe the event means for us, which is we are all here in our own capacity as individuals, as professionals, as leaders, to reimagine the future of work. Putting AI to work is only as powerful or effective or efficient as the platform it runs on, as the data it's connected to, as the workflows that run through your organization internally and externally. And if we think about the last 15 years or so before this AI revolution, when things were all about digital transformation, the good old days, I want you to think about the ROI conversations that you have or haven't had around those investments. Because research is now starting to catch up to show that we didn't actually see the productivity gains or the ROI that was originally promised. And in hindsight, when you look at those investments and you look at the work that was done, there was actually very little transformation in digital transformation. It was really about digitization and modernizing work, moving to the cloud, and nothing wrong with that. But transformation is the word of the day. And what we're really talking about is business transformation. This is a headline from The Economist. It asked, what happened to that AI revolution? And the subhead says that so far the technology has had almost no economic impact. The moment I saw this article, I had to stop, grab this screenshot, put it in this deck, and then I read the article. And the thing about the article was that it basically says we're not thinking big enough. If your only priority, if your only use case, if your only win is to take cost out of the organization by automating yesterday's work, you're not going to see the ROI that your stakeholders, your C-suite is looking for. In fact, if you look at the C-suite and you talk to employees and you ask them about AI strategy, AI vision, you'll notice that there is a disconnect between what CEOs, for example, say that their vision is, or our capacity to execute with AI, or that we have this amazing AI strategy versus what employees feel. This disconnect means that someone within the organization has to think bigger, has to start the types of conversations that we're not having today, and also has to start looking beyond immediate cost takeout. Because AI isn't just transformational, it is disruptive. And it could be disruptive in the best possible way, or it could be disruptive in ways that make us have to react. This is Vinod Khosla. He's probably one of the most storied venture capitalists in the world. And he recently posted on X that most businesses have no clue what's about to hit them in the next 10 years when most rules of engagement will change. And when he posted that, I also stopped what I was doing to say, wow, that's a pretty ominous post. What does he mean by that? What rules of engagement will change and how? And I realized that it was a challenge that he was issuing to people who followed him, which was, it's for you to figure out. So whether it's from procure to pay and every step in between, what he's saying is that every bit of your organization, how it processes information, how it executes towards outcomes, how it connects the dots, all of this is about to change. So if we think about yesterday's work, if we think about yesterday's workflows, and we think about applying AI to yesterday, That means we are improving yesterday for today and tomorrow to increase efficiencies, to take cost out, to scale, to optimize. But I also want you to think about whether or not that work or those workflows are the right workflows for tomorrow. Because part of this is optimizing and automating what you did. And a big part of this, what Vinod Khosla is really getting at, is doing what you didn't do yesterday, tomorrow. And that's where leadership, that's where vision comes in. And if we look back to the data earlier, that disconnect between C-suites and their organizations exists for a reason, because that vision, that bigger strategy is missing. I believe that we each as individuals and as leaders need to embrace an AI-first mindset. And an AI-first mindset doesn't just look to yesterday to prioritize work. It looks for its light bulb moment. Someone like you has to look for that light bulb moment. Because if we're simply doing what we did yesterday better today or tomorrow, that is iteration, and there's nothing wrong with it. We have to balance that with innovation, which is different. But we often confuse the two. If iteration is doing what you did yesterday better, innovation is doing what you didn't do yesterday to create new value, to create organizational value, to create ecosystem value, and most importantly, to create business value. And I want to show you an example of what we might confuse as innovation with AI.
A 22-year-old in India just created the first ChatGPT homework machine. This machine will write out all your assignments in your own handwriting. All you have to do is position the paper in the right spot. It even turns the pages for you. As ChatGPT use becomes more common among students, tools like this might make it harder for educators to determine what's real and what's automated. Personally, I feel like if you're smart enough to build an entire machine that automates your homework, you should never have to do homework again.
I agree. So that was pretty innovative, right? Except, no. It's really cool, but it's an example of iteration. He's using AI to do his homework in his handwriting and turn it in a way that makes it more efficient for him. He saves time. I don't know if he saves cost, but still, it's not innovation. It's very cool, but if we are applying AI to what we did yesterday to make it more efficient, it is not innovation. And that's why we have to think differently about balancing both. We just recently published what we call the AI Index. It's our second annual research studying the maturity of organizations of all sizes all around the world. And what we noticed was that out of 100, meaning that you're the most mature organization, the average score this year was 35. All that means is that we have a lot of work to do. We realize that we have a lot of learning to do. I think most importantly, we have a lot of unlearning to do. So this year, the score was 35, the average maturity. Do you know what it was last year? 44, which means that we went down a year, or we went down by 9 points over the year. And so we studied, like, what happened? How do we actually regress or go backwards? And it turns out that decision makers feel overwhelmed. In just 1 to 2 years, we've gone from generative AI to AI agents to the agentic enterprise. It's a lot to take in. And so what organizations are doing, the smart ones, they're taking a step back and they're exploring not just what needs to be optimized, but what we call AI pacesetters, who are ahead of everyone else, are looking across the organization to reimagine how work flows throughout the organization and then applying AI to that. So it connects the data, it connects the processes, it connects the systems. And those pacesetters are doing things differently than everybody else. They have a vision. that goes beyond quick wins and cost takeout. They are opening innovation centers for AI exploration and experimentation. They are exploring what a platform approach looks like to connecting the enterprise. Governance, believe it or not, is also one of the biggest challenges, but it's also one of the biggest areas of investment for more mature organizations. The thing about this is that there isn't a playbook that was published. There's a ton of books about it on Amazon, don't get me wrong. But your work, your role, your company is unique. The culture of your organization is unique to your company. And so that disruption, that stepping back and seeing things differently has to start somewhere. Someone has to have new ideas. Someone has to ask different questions. That disruption starts with you. And then you bring that disruption in the most productive and positive way into the organization. I've worked with countless companies, countless individuals, strategists at every level on AI strategies over the last few years. And I get the sense that everyone really wants to be a change agent in the organization. So they'll put together things that make it look like they're trying to change the organization, or at least change their work. But most of the time, they'll either block bigger efforts because it's out of their remit or out of their focus. They'll play it a little too safe. They'll find excuses why we can't do certain things. And essentially, that idea of being a change agent is now not about change at all. There are things that we need to stop doing. There are things that we need to prioritize, not just to bring change, but to do the right thing for our organizations and our partner ecosystems. There are also things that we're not doing at all that we need to start thinking about, like exploring innovative use cases, not just the quick wins or the low-hanging fruit, that we have to now start rethinking architecture for AI agents and how those agents will work enterprise-wide. We have to now start thinking about aligning our BUs. Anyone who touches the procurement or the supply chain lifecycle is now plugged in. Implementing AI solutions or strategies back into the silos that we have done for the decades, especially throughout digital transformation, only reinforces yesterday's model. It doesn't optimize it, it doesn't transform it, and it's not going to be prepared to compete at the speed of AI evolution. So I challenge myself, I disrupt myself by remembering this hashtag, WWAID. That's my little t-shirt I probably should get made. And what it stands for is, what would AI do? So in every strategy, every decision, every question I ask, I know what I would do. I've decades in digital transformation, experiences and failures. Each of us have those stories that we bring to these moments right now. And in the absence of having a playbook, when we think about what we need to do, we lean on what we know. But when we think about asking the question, what would AI do in this moment? It opens your mind to different possibilities. It opens your mind to think about how AI might solve this problem, develop a strategy, re-architect workflows, re-architect work, data fabrics. And as you start thinking differently about what AI would do, you now start to explore the unknown. You now start to make what you didn't know more tangible, which then becomes the foundation for transformation. That AI-first mindset is prioritizing the use of AI and exploring possibilities not achievable without it, and outcomes AI couldn't achieve without you. That's collaboration. That is beyond automation, And it now starts to create an augmented view of yourself. You now can do what you couldn't do without AI, but at the same time, AI couldn't do or perform those outcomes without you. So there are two paths forward, and they have to be in the roadmap together. One is what I call optimized AI. So these are the things that are going to increase efficiencies. These are the things that are going to take out costs. And then there's innovative AI. This is looking at new ways to unlock and create new value. So for example, McKinsey's Quantum Black recently published a report where they looked at 25 different attributes of AI investments within the organization. Of all of those attributes, companies that revisited how work flows throughout the company, not just modernize or automate that workflow, but reimagined it, that was the number one criteria for driving profitability within the organization. It is innovative AI that's going to disrupt business models and entire industries. And so it is a choice that we now make. When we're balancing our roadmaps and our strategy, they can now have to combine optimized AI and innovative AI. And when you look at the performance of what those investments look like, what you realize is that optimization gives you that linear line, not just of thinking, but output. But when you start exploring what you didn't know to know, once you start collaborating with AI and embracing that AI-first mindset, what ends up happening is you create exponential outcomes that weren't possible before. So if you want to get a copy of this deck, I put these questions here for you. These are sample questions that you can take back to work to figure out where should you prioritize your optimized investments. And at the same time, I did the homework to put together questions to help you unlock potential for innovative AI. And the results, the answers to each of these questions are going to net new strategies for you. And I think that's what becomes powerful. That idea of being a change agent then has to figure out how we bring those answers to life. But here's the good news. The ROI of optimized AI demonstrates a linear path of growth, whether it's greater profitability, reduced costs, greater efficiencies, greater productivity within the organization. But once we start reimagining work itself through innovative AI, that exponential ROI is greater than the linear line trajectory. So essentially, you're now taking cost out and you're also driving growth. And the delta between those two is positive disruption for your organization. I can tell you that most companies that I'm working with today are limiting their strategies to optimized AI because it's quicker, it's easier, it's known. But if that's all we're doing with artificial intelligence, then essentially we're creating a new status quo, just powered by AI. And the other thing that I've been learning, now that we know that AI can deliver ROI on two fronts, is recognizing that we have to maybe speak differently about it, because it isn't just a technology. And on the other side, it isn't just about the traditional or the legacy processes, systems, vernacular. We now have to learn how to bring these two together to speak the language of your business. Why are we making these investments in AI? What are the expected outcomes that you want to see from an optimized strategy and from an innovative strategy? And what impact do you foresee that having on the business? Everything that I've learned about business transformation and how to accelerate that business transformation was for me to get out of my own way. It started with me learning the language of the C-suite, learning the language of the business, because the more I made it about technology, the more that technology just became about being viewed as a cost center in the company. And that's not what this is about. This is an opportunity for us as leaders to change the narrative of the organization, to focus on the business problems and the opportunity, the investment required, and the potential return on that. To help me learn how to speak the language of the C-suite, I spend time with investors. I spend time with boards. I ask them, like, what's the language you're looking for? And one board member told me, you know what, frame the spend like an investment banker would talk about it. Of course, I didn't know how an investment banker would talk about AI, so I asked, what would AI do in this moment? To teach myself ways to learn what business leaders need to hear to accelerate the resources necessary, not just for those investments, but for the vision that your strategy can deliver. Now, before I get to the last slide, I do want to let you know that our booth, ServiceNow's booth, is right outside this door here on the left. And at 12:25, very specifically, at 12:25, we're going to be giving out copies of my new book, Mindshift, which kind of gets deeper into the skills necessary to open your minds, but also change other people's minds around all of these transformative trends that are there. So these are not only interesting times, these are transformative times, and these times need leaders. Because in the absence of leadership, what most business strategists will do, most technology strategists will do, is they will lean on what they know. And this is part of what to do. The other part is to do what you didn't know. Optimize and innovate with AI. To do that, those ideas have to come from you. We have to remember that light bulbs were not the result of the continuous improvement of candles. At some point, we had to hit Control-Alt-Delete and reboot differently. So change your perspective, change the narrative. Give yourself permission to take a step back and really think bigger, more creatively about what you do forward, what you do differently moving forward. Ask different questions. Be curious. Make that part of your culture. Talk to other business units within the organization and form alliances that are not going to just bring people together, but bring work, bring data together. Wonder out loud, because that is how you're going to imagine new possibilities. It's how you compete with AI. And I'll leave you with this. You'll always hear people that say, AI isn't going to take your job, but people who use AI will take your job. But I want you to think about it this way. You compete with AI, not against it, but with it. What would AI do? That's the question to ask to open your imagination to new possibilities that would not be possible without you. Thank you very much.